Welcome to Baseball Seasons 1979. Family.
Go crazy, folks! Go crazy!
Baseball 1979 began with expectations of the familiar. After 2 straight years that had ended with the New York Yankees raising the World Series trophy.
Free agency had just started in 1976, and some teams had learned very early that they weren't able to cope with it. The economy of the country was the same for every team, but the economy of baseball was radically different for the haves and the have-nots. And you already had teams in California and New York that were bidding high for free agents.
You can never stand pat with a winning hand. If you do, you're going to get beat one of these days. And by going after Tommy John, we feel we got a plus and the Dodgers got a minus.
For the Angels, the prize was Rod Carew, obtained from Minnesota to help California make a run at George Brett and the Royals.
If you think that one player could win for you, make you a contender and put you in the World Series, sure, I'd spend some money for that.
Rod Carew had come over, so I thought we had a good chance because of just trying to acquire talent to win in that division with George Brett over at Kansas City. So it gave us another edge and another great ball player.
In the NL, there was a surprise in Cincinnati, where management decided too much rust had gathered on what was left of the Big Red Machine, and a signature star was allowed to leave town.
Pete had been with the Reds so long that this was the discussion all winter around Cincinnati. What is this team going to do without Pete Rose? A lot of fans felt at a loss. And they just didn't think it would be the same team. It wasn't the same team without Pete, but it was still a good team.
A team without Rose and the manager who delivered 2 World Series titles, Sparky Anderson.
It was a very dramatic change. John McNamara was a totally different type of manager, much more serious than Sparky. He knew how to manage a pitching staff. He stressed solid defensive play more than Sparky had done, but he didn't have the kind of offense that Sparky had managed with the previous Reds teams.
And right from the start, the new-look Reds would be challenged by an unexpected rival, the pitching-rich Houston Astros. With an arsenal of arms, including Ken Forsch, who threw a no-hitter in just the team's 2nd game.
With 2 outs, I can still recall the ground ball, that throw that Terry Reynolds made from shortstop all the way over to Cabell to end the game, and that was a special moment. First half of that season, it seems like everything went right for us. We were scoring runs, we were running well on the base paths, fielding was spectacular, pitching was really good.
And strike 3 call.
For the first time, we had a feeling that we're all right, we can compete.
Meanwhile, back east.
Phillies National League Eastern Division champions. 3rd year in a row.
The Philadelphia Phillies were in search of a missing piece to help them turn division dominance into a World Series title.
So I immediately contacted Pete's agent, Reuben Katz, and I said, you know, if you're not going to stay in Cincinnati, we'd love to have you in Philadelphia. And a few days later, Pete Rose signed with the Philadelphia Phillies.
This late sports word just in. Pete Rose will sign with the Phillies.
The Phillies think they're going to win it in the East? You got to be out of their mind. 2 or 3 more Pete Rose ain't going to help them.
Confidence. It was something the reigning NL MVP had in ample supply.
Parker was the brash guy, the talker. He wasn't afraid to speak out, say he was the greatest, and then prove it on the field. He was almost the Muhammad Ali of baseball at the time.
Confidence level was very high. I believed in my ability, and I even made a quote one time, if you want to know how good I am, ask me, I'll tell you.
But beyond the posturing, there was tremendous talent.
I would say from 77, 78, and 79, he was the best player in the National League, maybe even in all of baseball.
And a player who evoked memories of another great Pirates right fielder with his all-round skills and incredible arm.
We lost the great one, Roberto Clemente, and God gave us Dave Parker. And Dave Parker was something similar about Clemente.
Like Clemente, Parker had a slugging cohort in Willie Stargell, now an aging first baseman who'd won Comeback Player of the Year in '78. Together, they'd keyed a late-season run that had left Chuck Tanner's team just short of a division title.
Oh, we were talking World Series, the last game of the 78 year. We went in Chuck's office, Willie and myself, and told him, that's all right, Coach, we fell short this year, but we'll get there next year, Chuck.
I honestly think that clubs who come very close and don't get there is a club that you really should keep an eye on the next year or the next 2 years. For the simple reason, there's something about hunger that makes human more determined than a guy that's just going out and saying, I want to be good.
That's a buckle.
While free agency brought on a surge of capitalism in baseball in the late 1970s, the American economy was suffering from a recession and an oil shortage.
It is a crisis of confidence. The erosion of our confidence in the future is threatening to destroy the social and the political fabric of America.
Part of America's fabric was baseball, and in 1979, fans could find inspiration in teams making unlikely runs like the Astros.
Houston Astros are going to win the National League West. No doubt in my mind.
The first half of that season, it seems like everything went right for us. It was a really great run for us.
The Astros' chief division rival was the Reds, who had found a new offensive spark in the wake of Pete Rose's departure.
The one guy who really stepped in was Ray Knight.
Ball is hit sharp to the right side, into right field for a base hit.
And Ray Knight had not done much on the major league scene because he hadn't had a chance to. Pete Rose had blocked his way at third base. But this was his one big coming out year to establish himself, and he seized the opportunity and ran with it. Had a very good year in '79.
As Cincinnati moved on without Rose at third, the Phillies began to reap the many benefits of signing Charlie Hustle.
He was one of the best I ever saw at talking about baseball and thinking about baseball and playing the game of baseball. And I think that started to rub off on our guys.
Rose's determination was evident in battles like baseball's highest scoring game in more than a half century, a 23-22 win over the Cubs.
There's a high fly to left. Look out now. Look out. It's gone. Mike Smith had just gotten his second home run of the day.
By late May, though, the Phils had relinquished first place to a surprise contender, the Montreal Expos.
May, June, it really became evident to us that we were not only hanging with the top teams in the division, but that we were one of the top teams in the division.
Youth was at the heart of their unexpected success, starting with 25-year-old slugger Larry Parrish.
Parrish, he could carry the team on his back for a week or 10 days, and he did that.
There was also an emerging star in the Montreal outfield, where the talents of Andre Dawson often seemed limitless.
Andre Dawson was a special player, a special blend of power and speed, a five-tool guy if there ever was one.
Bonjour, mesdames et messieurs. Mon nom est Gary Carter, le receiver des Expos.
And then there was the kid behind home plate, 25-year-old catcher Gary Carter.
We just really felt confident. We really felt that exuberance, and we're looking forward to having that winning season.
A season the Expos hoped would finally unseat Philadelphia atop the division. Meanwhile, in the AL West, there were several teams looking to do the same to three-time division champion Kansas City. Like the Angels and their new catalyst, Rod Carew.
Everyone expected me to come out and swing the bat consistently and move in runners, get runners into scoring position for the guys like Baylor.
And with Carew in front of him, Don Baylor was better than ever.
Carew set up a lot of things for me early in the season that really propelled me into driving a lot of runs.
Out east, Baltimore manager Earl Weaver liked to score runs with the 3-run homer and got the most out of his players by platooning them. In '79, the fundamentally focused Orioles seized control of first place in May.
He was not tolerant of throwing to the wrong base. He expected things to be done the Oriole way.
We had great ball players that could execute the fundamentals the way you want. The job has to be done on the field, not on paper or anything else. So that was the Oriole way.
They always said that if they could keep any team in baseball even for 7 innings, they felt that they would either win because their fundamentals were superior, or the game would be handed to them because the other team's fundamentals were inferior.
By early July, Baltimore's big division lead had led the fourth-place Yanks to jettison manager Bob Lemon in favor of familiar face Billy Martin.
As great as Lemon has been, and he's a great man and a great manager and my friend, I think he agreed with me that maybe a change in the menu would be time for it.
We're just going to go right on like we did before. We won before, we're going to do it again. And the question right now is get everybody healthy and do our thing. Our thing is winning.
The 70s offered style and showmanship. No one more so in baseball than Bill and Mike Vack of the White Sox, who put Chicago's South Side again in the spotlight in 1979.
Bill Vack always had some type of gimmick going on. He was one of the only owners who had unique ways of making people want to come to the stadium.
Whether it was sending a midget up to the plate or put a shower out in the center field stands for Sox fans so they could cool off. That's the thing about Bill Vack. You come up with a lot of great ideas, and then you come up with ideas that should have died in the talking process.
It was called Disco Demolition Night. The gimmick: bring a disco record and enter the ballpark for just 98 cents.
This radio shock jock was supposed to be blowing up all the disco records in Chicago.
I'm gonna go blow up the records real good.
The DJ's name was Steve Dahl. Upset that disco was overtaking rock and roll on the airwaves, he'd gather the records and blow them up in center field in the middle of a doubleheader.
Here they go.
I mean, he blew up all these disco records.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3.
How anybody ever thought it'd be a good idea to blow up a bunch of records on at center field between games of a doubleheader?
Then people started running onto the field. And a friend of mine, he was the first one to jump down, and he looked back and said, "Come on." And we all just looked at each other, and we were just like running and toward the infield. We didn't care.
This garbage of demolishing a record has turned into a fiasco.
What was going on the field, I mean, it looked like something out of a disaster movie.
Playing conditions on the field will not permit them to play the second ball game.
Could have been a lot worse. Nobody was seriously injured. They did eventually restore order, although they did have to forfeit game 2. I remember writing on my ticket stub, game forfeited due to disco demolition.
They may have been trying to kill disco in Chicago, but in the blue-collar confines of the Steel City, a 39-year-old first baseman they called Pops was encouraging everyone to embrace the message of a hit record.
It started during the rain delay. They play music for the fans that hang around for the game. And the song came on, We Are Family. And Willie sent with Jacoby and told Jacoby, that's our theme song, and it just caught on.
You're not getting sick of the song yet?
Never get sick of that song. I love it. And from that time, we called it the family. It was beautiful.
Everyone can say we're together as we walk.
Guys genuinely cared about each other. We all go out 16, 20 guys at a time. And that's how you build that type of camaraderie.
That man got on a gold uniform.
The Bucks were also about image, not just with the 18 varieties of their flashy uniforms, but also the Stargell Stars rewarded for performance by the Pirates' patriarch.
We call Pops Pops because he was our spiritual leader as well as our leader on the field.
He had this presence, this air about him, just this great aura that you get. It's palpable when you're around him.
Captain Willie Stargell, the guts of this ball club, the glue that holds us all together.
He was like a father figure to everyone, and he showed us how to enjoy the game, like when we were kids.
The only thing that I did was legitimately care about the people that I was surrounded with, and knowing that we had a job to do.
There's a drive. It's going, gone.
And it wasn't just that he talked the talk. I mean, he delivered.
Boy, how often can Willie continue to do it? Time after time, getting that big base hit.
Time and time again, all season long. I mean, the confidence that he had was infectious.
Stargell's confident and calming leadership kept the Bucks upbeat, despite early stumbles in '79. The team's play was up and down in May and June. And then, when Pittsburgh acquired two-time batting champ Bill Madlock from the Giants, the family welcomed a new member.
When we got Madlock, that was it. We just said, here we come, folks. Ready or not, here we come.
We actually became better at two positions at the same time, with Madlock coming in to play third base, allowed us to move Phil Garner from third base to second base.
And it was just a perfect infield, offensively and defensively. Stargell at first, Garner at second, Foley at short, Madlock at third. That's when everybody felt like we're in for a fun ride.
You guys think this is fun, huh? Sitting there taking your pictures, just enjoying it.
On the mound, the Bucks were anchored by former 20-game winners John Candelaria and Bert Blyleven.
1-2 from the Dutchman. Oh, he got him. Beautiful breaking ball.
This is the year I think we've got to win. We've got the personnel to do it. We've got a good, strong bullpen. We've got Kent DeColvey. If he can come around again, have the year he had, it's going to be very interesting.
Led by Parker and Stargell at the plate, the Pirates sandwiched the All-Star break with a 9-game win streak. And in early August, grabbed first place in the NL East.
The family was out to greet him, Milo. Everybody out there.
Well, this crowd is really buzzing now.
That's what the team was. Led by Stargell, they were a family.
A family important to fans in Pittsburgh, a city hit particularly hard by the nationwide recession.
People have their issues and their jobs and careers and bigger fish to fry than watching their sports teams. But when the sports teams excel, it's always a wonderful respite to get away from maybe the reality of the challenges of life.
In a year that had already seen the Steelers win a Super Bowl, the Pirates were doing their part to lift the spirits of their beleaguered city.
We had a very hard time coping. And I think in the midst of that, sport really becomes something that is at the core of the identity of this city.
You can see how the people have identified with this ball club.
There was a lot of excitement going on in Three River Stadium. Our club had kind of caught the imagination of the city also, so it was a good time to be a sports fan in Pittsburgh, and it was a good time to be a player in Pittsburgh.
In 1969, an upstart team came out of nowhere to do the impossible when the amazing Mets won the World Series.
The Mets are the world champions. Look at this scene.
10 years later, a team born in '69 was looking to do the same as the Expos fought the Pirates for the NL East title.
That was a pretty solid team for that 79 pennant stretch run. We were a young team and we had never experienced that before.
They couldn't do it without pitching. And leading the Montreal staff was an eccentric offseason acquisition, the spaceman, Bill Lee.
79, there were some missing pieces, and having Bill Lee come into that starting rotation.
Strike three call.
Bill brought a ton of talent and a ton of pitching knowledge.
Then there was Steve Rogers, who led the league in shutouts.
Steve was a quality pitcher that a lot of teams didn't like to face.
He got him.
To me, he had probably the best stuff I caught.
As the Expos won, average attendance nearly doubled at Olympic Stadium, creating a formidable and bilingual home field advantage.
Hooray, Morian! Away, Carter!
It was a hot ticket. It was the place to be. It was a happening, and we were battling and we were in a pennant race. It became a very, very loud venue.
Meanwhile, the surging Reds had their own piece of '69 Mets magic in the form of Tom Seaver's right arm.
Swing and a miss.
As well as his supreme confidence.
Tom Seaver won 16 games in '79, and he made a statement that was memorable. Long about maybe July or August, the Astros had a pretty big lead on the Reds, and Seaver said, the Astros will drop like a lead balloon in the standings. And it worked. He was right.
As the Reds chased Houston for first in the NL West all summer long, the Orioles coasted atop the AL East, to the delight of their colorful fans.
In 1979, the Orioles had an unofficial cheerleader, a cab driver named Wild Bill Hagee, who wore a battered straw cowboy hat.
Wild Bill has the crowd in a frenzy.
He would lead the Oriole cheer with his letters O-R-I-O-L-E-S.
And in '79, Wild Bill was most excited by his team's strong arms.
We had tremendous pitching on that team. Mike Flanagan won the Cy Young Award. We had Jim Palmer, who had 3 Cy Young Awards. We had a great lefty in Scott McGregor. We had Dennis Martinez.
We knew that if we got one run with our pitching staff and our defense, that we should win that game.
And at the plate, the O's were anchored by Ken Singleton, who led the team in nearly every offensive category.
I think the guy that often gets left out is Ken Singleton. He was a solid 300 hitter.
Singleton was a guy that knew the strike zone, had a fantastic on-base percentage. Somebody has to get on if somebody's going to have RBIs.
But statistics and division races were suddenly overshadowed when tragedy struck the game one day in early August.
New York Yankees and sports fans everywhere suffered a great loss tonight, that of star catcher Thurman Munson, who was killed this afternoon in an airplane crash.
We went to the ballpark early. George came down and told us what happened, and George broke down, cried like a baby, as we all did.
Munson had died on a fateful visit home to see his family. Now his baseball family, the Yankees, attended his funeral in Ohio, where his best friend, Bobby Mercer, delivered a eulogy.
Thurman Munson, who wore the pinstripes, was number 15. But in living, loving, and legend, history will record my friend is number 1.
It wasn't an easy task, but I'm glad they asked me to do it.
Back at Yankee Stadium that night, Mercer and the Yanks did their best to honor their fallen teammate.
Going out into left field will be Bobby Mercer, who has to be emotionally drained. He was one of those who delivered a eulogy today.
We knew Thurman meant a lot to the Yankees and their fans. He was the captain of the team. Guidry was pitching. We were winning, I believe, 4-0. Bobby Mercer hit a 3-run homer to make it 4-3. And then in the bottom of the 9th inning, he got a big hit off Tippy Martinez.
Ball is hit down the left side. It's a fair ball. Going to the corner. Randolph turns to third. Here comes the score. The Yankees win 5-4.
We ended up winning the ball game because of that, so I ended up driving in all 5 runs that night.
Bobby Mercer, one of 2 eulogists for the Yankees today. Munson, his leader, his friend, emotion, won this game.
It was as if somebody was saying, thanks for being there.
The Yankee captain was gone, and his team was left to pick up the pieces.
It was sad around that ballpark for a long time after that. It took all the wind out of us. We couldn't make a comeback like we planned on doing. It was devastating.
1979 was a year of personal milestones in baseball, including the final season of Lou Brock's Hall of Fame career. But before the reigning stolen base king left, he joined one of the most elite clubs in the game.
20,000 men to play the game. Only 13 had gotten 3,000 hit at that moment. So I became number 14.
A month later, in Boston, Carl Yastrzemski became number 15.
Number 3,000. Yastrzemski's got it. And all hell breaks loose at Fenway Park.
It was a season of hitting achievements for the venerable Red Sox star. As Yaz became the first AL player in history to belt both 400 home runs and stroke 3,000 hits.
There's the moment.
Yaz and the Sox won 91 games in '79 for a third-place finish. In second, the Milwaukee Brewers, who set a franchise record for wins under George Bamberger.
The organization turned around when George Bamberger came here in '78. He expected you to go out and play hard, play like you wanted to win every single night.
But in '79, the Brewers' 95 wins weren't nearly enough to win the AL East, as the first-place Orioles won more games than any other team in baseball.
It all started with Earl Weaver, who imparted to his players the absolute ability to win and win consistently. And that year we won 102 games, kind of ran away with things.
Baltimore wins it.
Out west, meanwhile, the Royals were aiming for a 4th straight division title behind a super year from George Brett, who became just the 5th player ever to hit 20 homers, 20 doubles, and 20 triples in a season.
For an all-around year, RBIs, runs scored, doubles, triples, home runs.
I think it was my best cheer.
But when September came, it was the Angels leading the division, thanks to a front runner for the MVP award.
Don Baylor, who's kept the hitting temperature red hot in California.
If there's anyone in the league that was going to win it that year, it had to be Donnie, because every occasion when we needed a big hit or someone to hit the ball out of the ballpark, Baylor was there.
Winning the MVP really didn't cross my mind. The only thing that crossed my mind was the Angels winning the division.
And nearly 2 decades after they debuted in California, the Angels finally clinched their first playoff berth.
Hernandez was on the mound. There was a ground ball hit to Carew.
Porter sends it to Carew. This should do it. He knocks it down. He goes to Hernandez. It's gone. It's over.
We finally won the division.
For the first time in 19 years, win the Western Division title. They have said, yes, we can. And tonight, it is yes, they will. And yes, they did.
In the NL, the races would prove more competitive and ferocious. Out west, Cincinnati and Houston battled for the title. And despite scoring the fewest runs in the league and having no player with more than 9 homers, the Astros had the late season lead.
Really, we didn't have the power numbers. I don't know, maybe we hit 50 home runs all year. But we did have good pitching, and the defense was really good. So we managed to win some ball games that year.
The race turned on a crucial 2-game series in mid-September, with Houston leading by just half a game.
When you play so long with nobody expecting anything from you, and then all of a sudden there's pressure on you that, hey, these guys can win, I think that weighed on a lot of us.
When Cesar Geronimo made the catch of the year to end the ballgame, the Reds led the West by 1.5. The pennant race was red hot.
They really pulled together pretty well, and as a team, it was able to come from behind, overtake the Houston Astros in September.
The Reds were the National League's Western Division champions.
In the East, the issue was still in doubt with a week left in the season when the upstart Expos arrived in Pittsburgh, clinging to a half-game lead over Willie Stargell and his family.
We lost 3 out of 4. Splitting the series would have given us the fighting chance. Losing 3 out of 4. It wasn't gone, but it was now out of our hands.
On the season's final day, the Pirates clinched their 6th division title of the decade. Their return made it 4 new teams headed to the playoffs after 2 years of repeat champions. New adventures awaited on the diamond in October.
It is a cool, crisp night here in Cincinnati. You can feel the excitement as we get ready for this championship series.
Entering 1979, the Reds and Pirates had met 3 times in the NLCS in the 70s. Cincy had won each time.
That rivalry was just like 2 bull moose rams pounding at each other. Rams raise up and they go bang. There go the Reds and the Pirates going at it again.
And in the 11th inning of Game 1, Stargell struck the first big blow.
A high, deep drive, hit back into deep right center, and it's going to be out of here for a 3-run home run.
Willie was a clutch hitter. I know Tom Hume couldn't get him out. Every time he faced Tom Hume, he took him deep.
Willie Stargell explodes one out of here to deep right center field. The Pittsburgh Pirates jump out in front 5-2.
The next night, it was Dave Parker's turn, as the game again went to extra innings, and again, a big Pirate bat looked to come through in a big spot.
You look down the bench and you look and see who's going to win the ball game for us. And 2 guys we look for, Willie Stargell, look for Dave Parker.
There it is, left field, base hit. Moreno rounds third. Here comes the throw. Hernandez, not in time.
Thanks to the clutch performances of their big guns, the Pirates had taken 2 in Cincinnati, setting the stage for a sweep.
Parker makes the catch, and the Pittsburgh Pirates in 10 innings defeat the Cincinnati Reds by the score of 3-2.
And in Pittsburgh, 2 days later, it would be the man they called Pops again leading the way with his bat.
There's a drive. The ballpark will never hold it. A towering home run. Superstar, super sergeant.
We were sky high for him. We went through him like a buzzsaw, but it was about time.
One of the great players in all of baseball, and he says they're number 1 just in the National League for now. You got 1 more step to go against someone.
Riding to the occasion all year, we do that too.
While Parker and the family swept past the Reds, The ALCS pitted the battle-tested against the upset-minded.
Tonight it is Earl Weaver's Orioles against Jim Fragosi's Angels, the first and best of 5.
We knew that the Orioles were a very tough ball club. We knew that we had our hands full.
Going into the Angels series, everybody around the Orioles expected them to win.
Expectations in place in part because of Weaver's reputation for playing the right hand at the right time. Like sending up pinch hitter John Lowenstein in the bottom of the 10th in Game 1.
Hit well. Back. Home run. Lowenstein, a home run. And the Orioles win it 6-3.
We really kind of didn't know what hit us the first game. It happened so fast.
And in Game 2, the Orioles looked to maintain momentum early.
First pitch to Murray. High fly ball to right field. That one might be out of here. Home run, Eddie Murray.
In a slugfest, the Orioles would hang on for a 9-8 win.
DeCinces will tag out Baylor for the final out. So the Orioles and the Angels now will go to California for Game 3 of the playoffs tomorrow night.
In Anaheim, the Angels were desperate, and trailing 3-2 in the 9th, they put 2 on with 1 out for second baseman Bobby Grich.
And all of a sudden, I saw the ball started to dive, and I said to myself, this ball is going to fall in. Bunbury playing center field came in, and the ball just went off his glove. I ended up scoring from second base. And then to go on and win the ball game, I think people started to believe that we did have a chance to beat Baltimore.
The Orioles really wanted to make sure that Bunbury wasn't a goat. They loved him. It was really the spark that made them come out of themselves and play for somebody else, not just to get to the World Series.
And the next afternoon, Scott McGregor took his center fielder off the hook with a masterful complete game shutout to clinch it.
All over, the Baltimore Orioles are the American League champions.
The World Series would be a rematch of the 1971 Fall Classic. That year, Stargell and company had gotten the best of Weaver's club in 7 games. Now, another epic battle awaited.
The 76th World Series, matching the Pirates and the Orioles.
In the Fall Classic's storied history, only once before had a series opener been postponed. 1979 would be the second time.
Last night, there was a game that should have been played, but the weather outside was frightful.
The weather was abysmal.
People waiting for the rain to stop, but it never did stop.
It was very, very cold.
This morning, they woke up to snow.
I remember waking up that morning to a snowstorm thinking I had missed the whole World Series.
When the weather finally cleared, the Orioles and Pirates steeled themselves for an October rematch.
These two teams last met 1971. The Pirates won in 7 games.
71 was my first one. That's just that real special niche that I can always cherish. 79.
The Pirates captain, first baseman, Willie Stargell.
I knew that if we did certain things, we could do it, and these guys had the desire.
4 more for the 4 games you're going to win to win the 1979 Fall Classic.
And as the action got underway at a frenzied Memorial Stadium, the Orioles immediately loaded the bases in the first.
Ball is hit on the ground to the second baseman, Garner.
Routine double play ball, and I just threw it away.
Throws it away.
I threw it about 10 feet over his head into left field.
2-run score.
The error opened the floodgates for the Baltimore Bats.
Doug DeCinces comes up now.
I can remember hitting a home run in my first at-bat in the World Series.
And that's a high drive hit to left field, going way back.
It's gone. Forget it. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Doug DeCinces, and the Birds are off to a big start.
With 23-game winner Mike Flanagan on the mound, a 5-run lead appeared insurmountable. The Pirates, however, had thrived on overcoming odds the entire season.
So long. It's a 5-4 ball game.
After that homer in the 8th, Stargell had a chance to even it in the 9th, with 2 out and a tying run on 3rd.
So it comes down to this.
Manager Earl Weaver still sticks with his 23-game winners.
Mike didn't show any signs of fatigue at that point, and they let him go ahead and pitch.
And with his 137th pitch of the evening, Flanagan and the Orioles survived Game 1.
Baltimore wins it. Well, you really can't say enough, I don't think, for the gutty performance of Mike Flanagan.
It wouldn't be any easier for the Pirates in Game 2, as Baltimore sent a future Hall of Famer to the mound.
There he is, the starting pitcher for the Birds, one of the greatest pitchers of his time, Jim Palmer.
But against Palmer, Bill Madlock in Pittsburgh broke through early.
Yes, sir! That ball is hit to right center field. It's going to be in there for a base hit. Singleton gets over there and cuts it off. Stargell comes to score. Way to give us a start, Will.
A sacrifice fly made it 2-0 Pirates. But then the Orioles' young star first baseman went to work. With 2 big swings, Eddie Murray single-handedly tied the game.
Way back. If it's there, it's gone. It's gone. Left center field, and that could be in the gap and up against the wall. The relay will not be in time on the double by Murray. We're tied at 2.
The game stayed tied into the 9th. Then, with runners on 1st and 2nd, Chuck Tanner pinch-hit 3rd-string catcher Manny Sanguillen, who'd driven in just 4 runs all season.
Hit to the right side. It's going to be in there for a base hit. Singleton playing short, right field. Throws to Murray. Relay. No! Pirates get the lead. It's going out there. Way to go.
And when Kent Tekulve sealed it, this series was tied.
The Pirates win.
And look at that Pirate dugout emptying out. There is Manny Sanguillen, the hero of the moment.
You felt like you won the series when you split, when you go out of town. You come back to Pittsburgh.
Three River Stadium in Pittsburgh.
Aha, you're in our ballpark. We all thought that we were coming home to win the series.
And as Game 3 got underway, the Pirates rode that confidence to a fast start.
Lined into left center field and off the gap.
With 1 in the 1st and 2 in the 2nd, the Bucks led 3-0.
And this club is alive.
But the Orioles hadn't won 102 regular season games by accident. And Weaver's mastery of the platoon showed when part-time starters Benny Ayala and Kiko Garcia had big hits to key Baltimore's comeback.
Line into right center field, all the way to the wall as Dower comes in to score. Dempsey comes in to score. They are waving McGregor in. It's a 3-run triple. Weaver has the look of a genius at the moment.
Earl Weaver knew exactly what he could get out of his players. He knew how to platoon them. He knew how to use them.
Ayala and Garcia drove in 6 of the 8 Oriole runs, giving Baltimore a 2-1 series lead.
The Baltimore Orioles come from behind to win game number 3.
Game 4 was pivotal for the Pirates. And in the 1st, Willie Stargell once again displayed his uncanny offensive timing.
Hit in the air to deep center field. Bunbury going back, all the way back at the fence. Gone.
What Willie did in the 1979 World Series was basically no different than what he had done for us all year long.
So the great man comes through and gives the Bucks an early lead.
But leading by 3 in the 8th, the Pirate ship sank as the Oriole bats once again came to life.
It's a double and it's 6-5. And Baltimore will take the lead. Damage was done. Baltimore 9, Pittsburgh 6. Look at them. There is joy there.
We were jumping up and down. We were very excited. We jumped ahead 3-1.
The Orioles, for the 2nd day in a row, come from behind.
I think we acted a little prematurely and thought that the World Series was already over.
As Game 5 of the 1979 World Series approached, the Pirates were trailing 3-1 and dealing with a loss in the family.
That morning, I had learned that Chuck Tanner's mother had died. And wow, that just kind of put a shadow over the clubhouse.
The team loved him, and his mother was a huge fan. We knew it was hurting him, you know, the fact that she was sick and then to find out that she passed.
You know where this man's heart will be. So if he doesn't even show up, we can clearly understand. And I hear this Chuck Tanner normal voice coming in the clubhouse.
You and Tony.
Had to be tearing him down, but you would never know it.
And makes the statement, you know, my mother was a huge Pirate fan, and she knew we needed some help, so she went to get us some.
And then that sent a chill through all of us.
This is Tanner, Chuck's mother, passing away this morning. His ball club down 3-1.
Here we go. Game 5. The Pirates need a few miracles beginning today.
And beginning with what appeared to be a pitching mismatch between Cy Young winner Mike Flanagan and a Pirates pitcher who had won just 4 games all season long.
Castino going with a surprising starter, 37-year-old Jim Rooker.
I thought he was crazy.
Oh, what a beauty. On the inside corner. Rooker today retired the first 10 men he faced.
Rooker, all of a sudden, is pitching like Mike Flanagan, and just face it, he pitched the best game of his career.
You couldn't ask for a man to give you any more at a better time.
I was wrong. Jim Rooker pitched an absolute brilliant game. 5 innings and kept us in the ball game, gave us an opportunity to win.
And the Bucs offense took care of the rest.
To center field, that's a base hit. Here comes Parker, it's 2-1 Pittsburgh. Now the folks are seeing their Bucs the way they played all year.
Chuck Tanner's mother passed away, and I still believe that his team rallied around him, and I think that gave them a big boost.
In a strange way, the tragic death of Chuck Tanner's mother has affected this team and uplifted them.
2 nights later, the Pirates hoped the momentum followed them back to Baltimore for a marquee pitching matchup between John Candelaria and Jim Palmer.
We just had 2 of baseball's best pitchers going at it, and on the biggest platform that you can go at it on.
It's going to be something. At Candelaria, if he can contain Baltimore, we go to number 7. Palmer wins, it's all over.
John Candelaria had some major back problems going on, and he was in a lot of pain.
Candelaria working on 3 days rest with a damaged back.
Just one of the gutsiest performances I think I've ever seen from a guy under adverse conditions like that.
John the Candyman has been super tonight. Worked 6 brilliant innings.
And in the 7th, the Pirates finally broke through for 2 runs off of Palmer, and then followed with 2 more in the 8th for a commanding lead.
As that game goes on, the innings are starting to pass by, and you're not putting any runs on, and you don't get a very good feeling.
Swing and a miss. The game is over. Jacoby slams the door on Baltimore, and the Pittsburgh Pirates have fought back to make it all even after 6 games.
The Pirates may have had the momentum, but only 3 times in series history had a team come all the way back from a 3-1 deficit.
They had the momentum, and it was going to be tough to beat them at that point. We knew we couldn't make any mistakes.
Trailing 1-0, heading to the 6th, the Pirates needed to once again strike late. This time, though, their leader already had a vision of what was to come.
I saw the 7th game in its entirety the night after the 6th game. Even though I was very sick, I had a very high temperature.
There he is, the big man. You can tell Willie's struggling with a cold.
But I knew that we were going to be victorious.
Once again, Stargell up. He's time at bat.
I knew that I was going to play a major role.
Hit well, right field. Singleton to the wall, and this ball is gone.
Willie Stargell, the big man.
And true enough, with the game being on the line, it was written for Willie to be the star, and he was.
And in the 7th game, with the chips on the line.
Oh, he's having quite a closing night, isn't he?
He's the spirit, the soul of the club.
Nice go, Will. Way to go, big man. All right, that's the way to put us in front. All right.
If you're not humbled in this game, you're about to be, as we all know.
Last chance for Baltimore. Kelly hits it in the air to center field. Moreno, torn toward right center, makes the catch. Pittsburgh wins it.
And we got humbled, and its stinking Pirate family team beat us.
And so this team, with its remarkable comeback capacity, coming from a 3-1 deficit.
How can you quit with guys like Willie Stargell around? I think if he was to retire one of these days, I think we'd all go with him because he just is something special to us.
79 will always be number 1 in my heart because I did it with a guy that was like a brother and a father to me.
We've overcome a lot of things. We never gave up. We refused to be denied. I'm just so proud of each and every one of our individuals and to the Pirate organization.
This is a city of champions, and they're very proud of it.
1979 was simply the crowning achievement, winning the World Series and the Super Bowl in the same year, and doing it in such dramatic fashion.
This song is the 1979 Pittsburgh Pirates. Even to this day, they are remembered as the family with Willie Stargell and the last World Series championship for the city. It was remarkable.
Thank you very much.
While the Orioles came up short in the 1979 World Series, they'd get their championship 4 years later.
A liner, and the Orioles are the world champions.
Albeit without the man who'd led them throughout the 1970s. Earl Weaver retired in 1982, as did at last Willie Stargell. Though Stargell died in 2001 at the age of 61, his spirit still endures.
Him in his black and gold uniform with the stars on his hat and him leaping in the air with both arms. And that's the way I always remember him and hold that in my heart.
No Pirates team has won a World Series title since. But the legacy of Pops and the 1979 team remains etched in the consciousness of the city of Pittsburgh and the game of baseball to this day. Not just as champions, but as family.